The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
This is not America. Little piece of you.
Welcome. It's Talking Truth to Power, Nevada and the world's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and I'm here with my co-host, Leland Faegre. And on the board, we have Shanimal Lawson.
He's not actually on the board.
Okay, he's next to the board.
That would do damage to the board.
Yes, that would.
Only if you knew.
I wonder how long we'll get away with that joke.
So quite a few things have happened in the last week, as per usual.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you know, one of the things we had the House hearings on the so-called insurrection on January 6th, and that gave the Democrats more opportunity to prove that they care more about emotions than facts and reason.
That's because you saw all of those violent, emotional types
Yes.
doing damage to the police and all the property there and everything.
And I don't know where they got, any good lawyer
How
will
did they
tell.
get away with this? Yeah.
I know. Look, if any any of the Capitol Police were hurt, I understand, according to the testimony, one Capitol policeman had a brain trauma and another one.
But that's from natural causes.
It could be.
Yeah,
One had a heart attack. It could be natural causes.
I think that was been established that it was natural cause.
Well, I'm not talking about the officer that died. I think. Yeah,
Okay, that's a different.
Yeah, I think it was another one that claims he was hit on the head. But, and the people that we can see breaking in, smashing windows and knocking down and battling with the police, okay, they can face charges, but it's still not terrorism.
Yeah,
it's a riot.
It's exaggerated all out of proportion.
Exactly. And
But that's what they got.
yeah.
I mean, we're dealing with desperate people. They have a window of opportunity here until we get into the primary season next year. And then that's all they got.
Yep. And somehow they're trying to weaponize this against Trump, but I don't know what they can do. He can't be impeached, right?
Well, it's because Nancy Pelosi is responsible for this January 6th.
Well, she bears a lot of the responsibility,
Because
certainly,
she
yeah.
had the opportunity to...
And the mayor of D.C.
Yeah, to troop up, and she didn't do it.
Right. Even though they had warnings.
Plenty
they told
of
them
it.
was
Well,
coming.
they had about 2 weeks of awareness that this rally was going to be taking place, and they know that Trump doesn't disappoint when it comes to to rallies. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what were they thinking? They weren't going to walk up the few blocks up to the Capitol. I mean, the reason that day that this occurred on that day was it turns out in the Constitution that that's the day they certify the electors.
Right.
So, I mean, they clearly set this up. They choreographed this event for maximum effect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the American people are so stupid they don't understand this, I'm not sure how you put that back in the bottle.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the American people understand that there are such things as political and military false flags that are, basically orchestrated, and some people can fall into the trap of doing what that they are being led into doing. And we see it all the time with, like, the entrapment of the Michigan so-called kidnap plan.
Could be as many as a dozen of those FBI informants in that crowd.
In there. Yeah, we don't know how many were in there yet.
It took 12 of those guys to pull that off. What does that say about their competence?
I know. They are.
Usually an informant is something you use very selectively because they are informants.
Right. They're supposed to be undercover, in danger of their lives, but,
So apparently they were a conspiracy within a conspiracy.
Sounds
hear
like
that
something from South Park.
Yeah, you hear that, conspiracy theorists?
Yeah.
Give us a call. What is the number? 844-790-TALK.
Well, we'll see what they can make out of this. But it's.
What were the ratings like yesterday? Do you hear?
For the hearing? No,
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. Like you said, they have a very small window, and they're not getting anything done. The progressives are complaining that they're being co-opted, that Biden is playing footsie with them and inviting them in and talking to them, but he's not doing anything that they want him to do.
Well, he's not winning anywhere because his ratings are tanking as well.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, he's trying to please too many people.
He's tanking on crime, right? Tanking on the economy. It doesn't look good right now. It looks like it's going to be a disaster in 2022 for the midterm elections.
Blood on the floor, but they do have the election fraud thing going for them.
Right.
Which is what they're trying to upset as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Twitter crowd has taken down the War Room bunch that we're talking about, the Arizona election.
The Maricopa people? Yeah. So.
That's a recent development. So.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Because there's real teeth there.
Right. Well, they're claiming more than 75,000 problems with the ballots,
Mm-hmm.
which would be more than the
margin of error.
The margin of victory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I call it the margin of error.
Okay. And now, there are calls for more audits in Pennsylvania.
All the swing states.
Yes, all the swing states.
Yep.
And they should.
And those that are monitoring this are seeing that there are differences in every single one of these swing states that need to be looked at. And they're seeing huge numbers, actually.
But that's just a conspiracy theory. Don't you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
We choose truth over facts.
Yeah, and the real conspiracies keep going, and the true.
But ours are legitimate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the true theory of what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't look like the election was kosher by any means. And even though you're reviled, and that it's the facts.
Well, if Biden can't fill up a diner,
I know.
how did he get 81 million votes?
How can this town hall with half the audience filled?
Would you like to increase your vitality? Disease develops within your body when the metabolic vitality of your cells is altered. Well, now there is a patented device that improves cell metabolism called Cell Vital.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsythe Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
Mustang salad now, baby.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. I'm here with Faegre. And, we have a new American hero.
Another one?
Another one. I know. He's just like Superman. And he's the very model of a woke postmodern general. General Miley, defender of democracy, foe of fascism. And we wants
to understand things.
Yes,
yeah.
we got this from this book called I Alone Can Fix It about Trump's last year. And General Miley came out with a video saying that the U.S. Army is not political. No way, sir. We're never, ever political.
To his credit, before you continue, He's not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Okay.
And as it happens, many generals over the past generation
Generations have been.
are actually members of the CFR, including Colin Powell.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual at all, but I checked the membership and he's not there. So.
Okay. But, you just got to like that rock-ribbed jaw.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
those,
yeah.
those big bushy eyebrows. I mean, he certainly looks authoritative. But he saved America from the Trump coup.
He has that authoritative look, does he?
Yeah,
Okay.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
Until he opens his mouth, anyway. And the book says that he sat behind Obama at the Biden inauguration and assured the former president that the military has this regarding the Trump coup. We're not going to let it happen.
You wonder whether anything that is published these days is accurate. you know.
Right.
But I wouldn't trust him
No.
at all.
No, I don't.
So it could very well.
He's angling, like all of these generals, his term is going to be
Yeah.
up pretty soon.
Right.
And he's angling for a job on a board of a defense contractor.
Sure, absolutely is what he's doing. Yeah.
Yep. There was another interesting bit of news from the website Information Liberation. And it's reported that the Iranian Guard General Soleimani, he was assassinated while Trump, Matt Gaetz, and Tucker Carlson were at Mar-a-Lago. Now, according to this website, and I don't know if there's any way to fact check it, but anyway, according to the story, Gaetz came into Trump shaken over the news of the assassination, and Trump told him he had to do it. Trump said that 16 Republican senators led by Senator Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham, and also the aforementioned General Milley, urged Trump to kill Soleimani. Milley reportedly told Trump he could be held criminally liable if he did not kill Soleimani. So,
Who's the author of this?
well, I have the it's called Information Revolution. What did I say? I'm sorry, I don't. Information Liberation.
Liberation, yeah.
Yeah. And so, according to this, my thing is not giving me.
Well, here's what I like about the scene you've established is that Gaetz, Trump, and Tucker were all in the same place.
Yeah.
How come I wasn't invited?
Yeah.
I love all those people.
So, again, Trump had Gaetz call Tucker Carlson, who was on the golf links, apparently. And the source said that Gaetz called because Tucker doesn't like to be portrayed as a presidential advisor, so he doesn't like to take Trump's calls personally. Although there are stories that says that Tucker actually contacted the president a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't know if that's accurate.
Right.
At all.
So, according to the story, Gaetz immediately turned the phone over to Trump, who told Tucker Carlson the same story he told Gaetz. And I was wondering where this came from. The assassination of Soleimani did not seem like something that we were going to do at the time. And,
He was in the wrong place at the wrong time would be how I would characterize it.
yeah.
But I mean, the discussion about Tucker, suddenly Tucker is a target of the NSA.
Exactly.
And then he turns up in this piece on information liberation. So, it's hard to discount the likelihood that the source for both may as well have been the NSA. We know that the NSA and the intelligence community speaks to the press in violation of the law. So they could very well have done so here as well. So, this is be interesting to see what kind of aftermath this drubs up, because it doesn't, just my instinct,
Right.
It doesn't seem exactly accurate.
Well, I don't know if anything will ever come of it because, I'm sure the former president will deny it, but, it both makes me think that Trump is still a non-interventionist, but also that he I don't like the fact that he goes around bragging about killing Soleimani.
Oh, I think he was definitely inclined to curry the favor of establishment individuals and establishment theaters of war. I don't think there's any question about that. But his hands were tied. It was not his administration. It had his name on it, but it wasn't the Trump administration.
Right. And I can certainly believe that Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham urged him to do something.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
But, I mean, it was against international law, and Soleimani was not the terrorist that the only reason why Mali would get involved is because they try to blame Soleimani for the IEDs that the Iraqis used against American troops when we were illegally in Iraq. And that's all blown out of proportion. The Iraqis certainly had their own means of knowing how to build IEDs. And
but Trump has no respect for international law anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's perfectly in sync with his character and his motive as chief executive.
Inconceivable!
Yeah.
Well, you have to have respect for international law.
I don't mean everything.
Right.
But just certain parameters are not consistent with sovereignty, American sovereignty.
Right. But American sovereignty doesn't mean that you should be able to just run around the world,
Absolutely not.
doing things that.
Right.
And I think most Trumpers are non-interventionists, and most of the American people are non-interventionists. We want to get out.
We're looking
of
for
that
a way.
region.
Sure, absolutely, we do.
And then Biden hosted the president of Iraq, and he promised that the U.S. troops will not be in, quote, combat mode, unquote, by the end of the year.
There's reparations in the wings. What is this going to cost us?
Yes.
Because when we leave, we're going to see the devastation we left.
Yes.
And then Ron Paul's been saying this for years. Wait till the American people see the bill for what we did in Iraq.
Yeah. That the bill is on us already because of it's either going to be through depreciation of the currency or more taxes, and they usually go for the depreciation of the money supply. So that's what's occurring now. Is I'm sure you all know that your prices are going up at the supermarket and the gas station everywhere.
Or your portions are
getting
down.
lower. Yes, exactly. That's the other way they do it.
Buy a bag of chips and let us know how many are in there.
Or compare the
volume.
The weight per volume today to like 6 months ago, and you might be in for a shock. Yes. And but we don't know what that means about as far as pulling down troops from Iraq. We still have 40,000 troops in the Gulf states. But if we really are going to pull out of the Levant and the Fertile Crescent and leave that and stop that 20-year boondoggle of interventionism over there, then that's a good thing. Even though we're going to keep paying for it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
According to Iranian sources, and I don't know whether this is true, but Soleimani is buried in a simple grave of unknown soldiers from the Iran-Iraq War, and the gravestone just has his name and the words, "He was a soldier." Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it goes with my impression of the man, and again, I do not have the kind of access that other people may have to Soleimani. So if anybody knows anything else about how evil he was, you're welcome to believe that or call in and discuss it. But it seems like he was a good soldier, and he was actually fighting ISIS, not the U.S., for at least most of the time. The only time he may have been directing activities against the U.S. was when we were in Iraq illegally and invading Iraq, if he was even then.
Yeah, which is where we should not have been.
Exactly. So if General Miley got a scalp on his belt, according to this story, and Cotton and Graham revealed who they are again, but That's not who we are. And it's not where the American people are either. And you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all of the time. And I think the American people are waking up. I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Well, I think that we are in a different era of understanding, that's for sure.
Right.
And there is an awareness of the external threat of violations of sovereignty, whether that be placing our troops in harm's way overseas or not taking care of our border.
Well, they're coming right out and saying what they never said before, so maybe we should talk about that in the next.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and my co-host, Leland Faegre. Well, like we said, the Democrats are now saying out loud that which they have denied for years.
Shocking.
Shocking, isn't it? Well, we all know about the censorship when Jen Psaki just said out loud that the White House and the Surgeon General are telling Facebook who to censor, and they want to make censorship total and permanent across all social media for any dissenters.
For as long as they can get away with it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So another year they'll be able to get away with it.
I don't have anything new for you on that, and we'll circle back with you directly.
Okay.
I can circle back. I'll circle back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then as far as gun control, Biden at his town hall, the infamous town hall, when he couldn't seem to link more than two sentences together in a row.
I think he was just out of sorts at that thing.
You know the thing.
Maybe he'd ramped himself up a little too much, and he just couldn't, live the consequence of what had happened. But it really was peculiar, wasn't it?
Yes.
All the way around.
But he came right out and said, not only do they don't just want to limit the size of magazines, but any gun capable of having a magazine in excess of whatever standard they impose. Now, what is it? 10 rounds, 6, 2, 20? Mm-hmm. He was all over the map, and he explicitly mentioned 9mm semi-automatic pistols and rifles, semi-auto rifles that are capable of shooting with a magazine. So I guess they only want single shot or maybe revolvers. They would allow revolvers, maybe.
Well, what for how long?
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, it was just red meat to the anti-gun and the gun crowd. So that's what all it was.
Yeah, but again, it's a step beyond what they normally admit to what they're saying. Right.
We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what.
That's a doozy.
Yes.
I love that one. Thanks for bringing that one up, Shanimal. I've been missing that one.
And then Senator Dick Durbin gave a speech in which he basically said the great replacement is happening and it's a good thing.
Uh-huh.
He said the demographics of America are making the grand old party more and more irrelevant.
But
and their future is increasingly unelectable.
What he is saying is that he's agreeing with us.
Yeah.
But he likes the idea.
I mean, Ann Coulter would agree with that statement.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Everybody on our side would agree with the statement.
Yeah.
Just not the outcome.
Right. By 2045, according to demographic experts, the Census Bureau and so on, the U.S. will be majority non-white, and that's just the way the Dems want it.
See, this reveals their racism.
Exactly. Yeah.
If they discuss this in the context of race, I don't care if you're purple or polka dot, as long as you think like Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
And
yes.
not Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
It's just beyond comprehension what we're experiencing here.
And it also means that the Democrats are really trying to make laws for the Americans that live in 2045, not the Americans that live today.
Right.
They're trying to prepare the groundwork for them. And, you know, and anybody that's a CEO of a corporation knows you don't take actions to benefit future shareholders. You take actions to benefit the shareholders you have today. Mm-hmm. And that's...
you will lose them.
Or you will lose them.
And that's what's going to happen in the next general election. They will lose them.
Well, we certainly hope that is going to be the case. And we can make sure that we do have a relatively clean election. You'll never have a perfectly clean election with the Democrats out there. But
and all of these protocols of election fraud must be corrected, or they'll still, they expect nefarious behavior.
It's just amazing because, people are, the left really hates what happened at Charlottesville, and it was really stupid to have that Tiki lamp parade and everything, but they was chanting, "You will not replace us," and now the official Democratic Party policy is they want to replace us.
Mm-hmm. But you see, their constituency is not that sharp.
Yeah,
it's the whole modus operandi is to have as many stupid and poor as possible people among their rank and file.
Well,
that's how they get away with it.
The Democrats surely love the poor because they want to have more of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Their policies will ensure it. Yes.
Yes. So, it's amazing what's happening right in front of our very eyes. And then CNN is spreading misinformation about COVID. Then they demand their guests that they have on demand that the stick start being used on the unvaccinated. It's no longer time for the carrot and the stick. It's time to use the stick.
These are violent people.
Yeah, they are.
That's what they are.
Authoritarian to the core.
Yep. And I think that explains why their ratings are so low. Mm-hmm. Even that crowd is reluctant to go along with some of that stuff.
Meanwhile, our cousins overseas, the French and the British, they're turning out in the streets hundreds of thousands strong in mass demonstrations over vaccine passports and other restrictions. It was really great to watch the demonstration in Paris when they were shouting "Liberté, Liberté,"
Mm-hmm. See more of that, I hope.
Yeah, and then Australia shut down most of its continent, and it was due to 111 COVID cases out of 80,000 tests. Mm-hmm. And they shut everything down. What is it with these people?
It's hard to comprehend.
Meanwhile, little Sweden is not in the news.
And that was from the variant, right? Because of the variant?
Yeah, that's because of the Delta variant. Sweden has no mandates, and their rolling 7-day death count is 0.
0, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah. So what am I missing here?
I know. And this was, I saw Rand Paul giving testimony, and this Dr. Muriel Nass had a good explanation, and she says that the Delta is supposedly bad because it has more volume. There are 1,000 times more virus in the nose of those infected with Delta variant than what they call wild or original COVID.
Well, that's what mutant behavior does.
Right, exactly.
So we shouldn't be surprised by that.
No. They said that SARS-2 was 1,000 times more infective than SARS-1. So does that mean Delta is 1 million times more infection than SARS-1? We have no idea what that even means.
But less emphasis has been placed on the fact that these people who are contracting this particular variant of COVID are not subject to as many of as difficult symptoms as the previous one.
Right. And when Rand Paul tries to bring that up, and the other Republicans in the Congress, they're shouted down basically. But it's true. I mean, but all you hear in the mass media is words like aggressive transmittability, and
they're trying to scare us.
Unsourced claims that 98%, and the President Biden said this too, 98% of hospital admissions or 98% of COVID deaths are among the unvaccinated. How do they know that? Where is the data? Who's vaccinated or not?
They haven't known anything since we were assaulted with this virus. And you know that Sissilac has now imposed an indoor mask mandate. You know that, right? In 12 of the 17 counties here in the state of Nevada.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't have to wear a mask today, right?
No, but it's beginning Friday night at midnight, I think you will.
Oh, it is? That's insane.
It is.
I mean, what are the small businesses in Las Vegas are going to be suffering again?
Yeah, here we go again.
The casinos will probably be able to withstand it because they're so big and people want to go there. But all of these ancillary businesses, restaurants and so on in Las Vegas are going to be hurting. It's I don't know.
And the other effect, I think, which is probably more insidious and I think cruel in a way, is that children are affected to a much greater degree.
Yes. Yeah, I saw a couple walking out when I came in today, and there was a woman, she was masked, her husband was not masked, and she had a little kid about 4 feet high, and he was masked up.
Was masked up?
Yeah. And you can't say anything to people, but gosh, I sure could stare at them for a minute.
Shut up.
It is peculiar how many people are still masked up around here.
Right. And even when they're all alone, walking on the street outdoors.
Yeah, outdoors. It's really odd.
But it's not the science.
No, it's definitely not the science.
But they say it's the science.
Yeah. They'd like for everyone to believe it was the science.
Right, because most Americans can't keep up with all the science. I mean, how many times has Fauci changed his mind on whether masks are effective or not? I mean, he must have changed it a half a dozen times.
I think he's in the pattern of changing it twice, everything twice.
Yeah, and he's vaccinated and wearing double masks.
Done full circles.
Yeah, and he won't admit that it's theater.
Yeah, which is obvious.
It is.
It's obvious theater.
Oh, man.
Well, he's a moron.
Yeah, he is a moron. He's a wealthy, influential moron, but he's a moron.
And you know who else is a moron, according to Nancy Pelosi?
Speaker of
McCarthy.
ranking minority leader.
McCarthy, yes. After he says House mask mandate not based on science.
Science.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. I'm here with Leland Faegre. And we want to talk about our competitors for the last segment here. Russia held Naval Day in St. Petersburg, in which they showed, the strength of the new Russian Navy under Putin. And Iran was invited, and they went there. But first, they trolled the West a little bit. They sent 2 battleships to go to St. Petersburg, but they started off on a course for Venezuela. And then all the Western news alerts were about what's going to happen. Are we going to blockade? Are we going to, intercept them and all this stuff? And then the next thing you know, they were in the Baltic Sea heading to St. Petersburg. So they had a little fun at our behest.
At our expense, yeah.
Yeah. But the big news is that Russia revealed still more advanced military equipment. The first one is the Zircon missile, which was tested successfully in the Arctic, and it reached Mach 7, which is hypersonic. It's supposed to be capable of Mach 9, but it reached Mach 7. And this is specifically a ship killer missile, meaning probably aircraft carriers. And the NATO and the U.S. Navy has no answer for this. And we won't have one for quite a while, maybe a decade.
None that they're telling us anyway, yeah.
No. Now, a Tomahawk cruise missile travels at less than Mach 1. So if a Zircon is fired at a ship, a naval commander would have 20 seconds to react to it, which is impossible. They would not be able to, they would be dead in the water, as it were.
And our communications would be down before that happened, I'm sure.
Yes.
Because that's the secret now.
Yeah. That's
take our ability to communicate down,
Oh, yeah. They're very good. When they, the HMS Defender, the British ship that got too close to Crimea and they fired a warning shot, although the British claimed they never fired a warning shot,
Right.
There was a Dutch ship that tried the same stunt. It's a smaller frigate. And what the Russians did there was jam their electronic equipment, and they claimed they actually damaged their communication equipment. So they're very, very good at jamming.
Magnetic pulse warfare is really where it's at.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to fire a shot if you can take us down.
Right. I mean, if they're dependent on electronic and digital communications, if you can disrupt that, you can disrupt the whole
everything
attack.
The foundation of it. Yeah.
And Russia also revealed the S-500 Prometheus air defense system. This does not replace their advanced S-400 system, but is designed to complement and complete the Russian air defense as an integrated system. And it is capable of intercepting anything from small drones to even ICBMs and low-orbit spy satellites. But the upshot is that Russia is now much better defended than the U.S. is. For all our big talk about Star Wars and ICBM defense and Patriot missiles and Iron Dome and all this stuff, I mean, the United States is much less capable of defending itself than Russia is at the moment. And, these are not really aggressive weapon systems. They're meant for defense. Russia doesn't say homeland. They usually say motherland. But they're just so much more capable. And then plus they have, like I brought up several times, they have actual civil defense. The Moscow subway system has places where you can go and hide out in case of an attack. So just as far as protecting themselves, they're much more advanced than we are. And the third leg was the Su-75 Checkmate.
Oh, yeah!
And this is the newest fifth generation single-engine jet fighter. It's called the Checkmate because it will checkmate the American F-35 fighter in international markets. In other words, Russia wants to make more money over it and replace America as the most reliable seller of arms. So the Russian Air Force
seems to be some dispute about that.
Yeah, actually has better jet fighters than the F-35 already, but they're both expensive, bigger fighter jets. And the U.S. military-industrial complex can keep churning out these F-35s, even though they're very unreliable. In certain weather patterns, they can't even take off. They're not as stealthy as we say they are, and so on. But if the Russia is planning to sell the Su-75 at a mere $30 million apiece, which is highly affordable, and then it could turn out that countries will want, hundreds of these planes rather than the unreliable and very expensive F-35. So, again, it's becoming more apparent that the U.S., for all its bragging, does not have the world's best military. Now, in terms of projecting power, yes, we can move hundreds of thousands of troops, thousands of miles, and in that sense, we're the most powerful. But what good is moving troops to third world countries when guerrilla fighters can defeat you?
Haven't we done enough of that already?
Yeah. In asymmetric warfare. In terms of just national defense, like I said, Russia under Putin now is the best military capable of actual defense of the motherland. And let's go to our other enemy. The U.S. sends an amateur to China to negotiate with professionals.
Which amateur is that?
Wendy Sherman.
Okay.
Did you ever see her? She looks like a typical liberal college professor. Very serious, but without a clue.
Oh, right.
But she's no career diplomat. She's a political appointment, a Clintonista. It's been around in political circles for years. She writes the occasional article or academic article about China, but she has no real experience dealing with China. So the Chinese basically ate her up. They were a lot less vocal than they were in Anchorage when Blinken was there, but they said basically the same thing.
Well, she's a woman.
Yeah. They gave her a little respect. Okay, so the Chinese say they're tired of being regarded as an adversary, competitor, or enemy, and that we want China to do is like we tell them and obey the Western rules-based order.
Well, Wendy Sherman, you know, for all of her incompetence, as you described her, she's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Is she?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean, despite all her incompetence?
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Wendy R. Sherman, to you and I.
Yes. The Chinese are saying that diplomacy is about trying to reach an agreement with the other party with mutual respect, and that is not the U.S. attitude. The only agreements we negotiate with other countries that we regard as somewhat hostile is to serve our ends, not mutual ends. For example, we keep saying, well, we'll talk to China about climate change, which is a non-issue, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
really. So what?
Yeah. We'll talk to them about North Korea. We want them to help us keep North Korea in check. But otherwise, you know, we're not going to engage them as equals. And if this continues, China is saying there will be a price to pay. And, you know, the right is pumping this up. I mean, I saw a video with Ben Shapiro where he basically said, make no mistake about it, China is our enemy. You know how he talks? He basically hinted the Belt and Road is an evil plot to take over the world, you know?
Well, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
It's part of the plot. It's not the plot. It's part of the plot. It's about the grand design of globalism, which is why this Wendy Sherman was selected. She may not have an aura of competency about her, but they're not worried about her because she's part of the team. See? She's part of that globalist.
It's a big club.
Yeah.
And you ain't in it.
Exactly right.
Yeah. But, you know, trade is not necessarily globalism. You're going to have trade. It's
right.
called economic development.
Right. But you don't trade away manufacturing that helps your sovereign interests, that sort of thing. We've been doing that for years in China because it's part of that global design to build up third world countries. China was a third world country 2 generations ago. Just like that, it challenged everybody.
Right. But you're going to... I don't know what the answer is, so I'm not going to say that I know what the answer is. And
well, you don't trade away.
It wasn't handled right.
Right, it was not.
It was not handled right. But I can't blame free trade. I still believe in free trade, but something better should have been done.
It depends on what you trade.
About well, you know,
it can't just be anything. It can't be anything. It has certain things have strategic interests.
Right.
And sovereign risk if you abdicate your responsibility to trade with a foreign state. For example, the supply line, the supply trades of pharmaceutical products. Some of those are exclusively Chinese.
Well, yeah, but Britain is having the same problem with India.
Right, because they were also in pursuit of globalism for much of their history until they couldn't afford it anymore, and they passed it to us. Now we can't afford it.
Okay.
It's the same formula.
Yeah.
Where, however long it takes. They're going to get to their UN order, their United Nations global control of this planet Earth. They're going to get there, and it may be literally around the corner. Wouldn't that be something if Biden hands off this design, just as he enters a convalescent hospital?
Well,
can you say Kamala Harris?
only with great reluctance.